Welcome to Toronto, the city that seems like it never sleeps. If you're visiting Canada, then it is highly likely that you will be in Toronto for a little while at least. So, this is your full fledged guide to Toronto to know what you should do, where you should stay, how to get around, every single thing you need to know about traveling in Toronto in this guide. So, don't skip ahead because we are going to get into some very explicit details. How to reach Toronto. To reach the city from within Canada, you can drive, take a bus, catch a train, or even fly. Toronto is one of the busiest and largest airports in Canada, and it can get chaotic. But it is definitely connected to a large number of destinations all across the world, so getting a direct flight to Toronto is actually super easy. Now that you're at the airport in the country, you would be thinking, how do I get to downtown? Uber is an option, but if you don't want to spend much money, there are Union Pearson Express trains that run straight from the airport to Union Station, which is downtown Toronto. And from Union Station, you can go to other places as well. The train ticket costs $12.35 one way, but it is a very good way to reach downtown Toronto without spending a lot of money. And Uber can cost you anywhere around $25 to $30. So if you're in a big group, I think Uber is a better option. But if you're traveling alone and don't want to spend a lot of money, definitely look at Union Pearson Express. And if you like these kind of travel guides, do give me a sub and like so I can know what you want and I can make more of this content. Moving on to where should you stay. If this is your first time visiting Toronto, then I guess you would want to visit all the major tourist attractions. So in that case, downtown Toronto would be your ideal place to base yourself at. Popular attractions like CN Tower, Ripley's Aquarium, Toronto Island, Distillery District, Yonge Dundas Square are all located in this little bubble, so staying in this area would be best. Another advantage of staying here is the connectivity by public transport, which is not great but not too bad either. We'll come to that later. As well as the accessibility to parts like Midtown, Kensington, West Queen West, etc. You'll find budget-friendly accommodations here, especially if you look in Kensington Market and Chinatown. The number of hostels in Toronto are a little less than usual, but there are plenty of Airbnbs and hotels that would suit your budget. But remember that staying in Toronto is a little expensive, so you will end up spending at least $50 a night in this city. Alternatively, if you are looking for more shopping and luxury stays with a bit of charm, Yorkville would be a good choice. I recently went there and I was blown off. If I am someone visiting Toronto, I would prefer to live in Yorkville because at the end I am spending money, so I would rather spend money at a place that's actually nicer. And I actually loved Yorkville. I forgot to take pictures, but that part is beautiful and it has a totally different vibe. And an extra tip, there are certain areas you should avoid because you might find cheap accommodations there, but those places can get a bit sketchy, and being a tourist, you would want to stay safe. Avoid staying at Jane and Finch, Sherbourne and Queen Street, Sherbourne and Bloor. So Sherbourne Street is in general, and Regent Park, Flemington Park, Cabbage Town. These places I would rather stay clear of. I personally use booking.com for all my accommodation reservations, so there is a referral link below. You don't pay anything extra, I just get a little bit of commission out of it, so use my referral link to book your accommodation in Toronto. Now, if you're thinking which would be the best season to visit Toronto, let me tell you that Toronto sees all seasons in extreme. Summer, winter, autumn, spring, everything is in full power over here, so you need to plan your travels very carefully. From frigid winters to scorching summers, this city has it all. And the high season in Toronto is summer, which is June to August, and low season is winter, December to April. And you do not want to visit Toronto in winters because the temperatures go -10, -15. Winters in Toronto are bad. But while winters can be bone-chilling with countless snowstorms, summers are when the city comes back to life. If you want to experience true Toronto, summers are your best bet, but mind the prices because they can go high, very high. In my opinion, August to mid-October is a great time because summer is still lingering and autumn starts peeking around the corner, so you can see some of the best colors of the city and at a cheaper price. Fall in Ontario is one of the best things you can experience in this country. So if you are coming here, make sure you have a few days around September, October so you can see the changing colors of leaves and experience fall in this country. You have decided where you want to stay. Now the question is, how do you even get around in this city? Toronto is actually very walkable, so if you're not really keen on taking public transport or something, you can actually walk from place to place. I am used to walking 5-7 kilometers a day easily, so when I was exploring Toronto, I would just walk from place to place, and that was one of the best things because you see the city from a very close distance and you experience things that you would not experience in a car. But if you don't want to walk, you can take a few different modes of transport. But remember that getting around in Toronto is a task because traffic is insane and public transport is not the best. If you want to use public transit, there are streetcars or trams that run across downtown, making it very easy to commute. And there are subways, buses, and intercity trains called GO trains for longer distances. You'll need a Presto car to travel in public transport in Toronto, and you can get them at subway stations or Shoppers Drug Mart. There's one standard fare of $3.5 every time you travel in public transport, and that ticket is valid for 2 hours. So you can do that, or you can also take a single day pass of I think $12, which lets you travel around Toronto on any mode of transport for one whole day. You can buy these single day passes from ticket vending machines in subway stations. Union Station is the best place to get this. If you are crossing Union, you can buy a ticket from the vending machines. The only downside with using public transport is that the travel time is long, super long. A 15 minutes drive can be a 45 minutes journey on trains. So if you are on a time crunch, rent a car or use Uber or Lyft. But remember, traffic is bad in Toronto and you are highly likely to be stuck in traffic in downtown Toronto. Oh, and I almost forgot, you can rent bikes to get around as well. These bike stations are everywhere and are affordable as well. Now the question is, what should you actually see in Toronto, because there is so much to see here, right? Every other video that you go to, there are the same old 10-15 things that you should be doing in Toronto, and I'll be very honest in this section and tell you that there isn't anything special to see in this city. It's exactly like any other big city, the same buildings, the same shopping areas, the same tall tower, and the same main square. So in a local's opinion, skip all of that. Don't spend your money to go to CN Tower, Ripley's, Royal Ontario Museum, and overpriced bars and restaurants in Distillery District. Although Distillery District really looks nice at night and you could just walk around and see how it is. But I don't think it is that extraordinary that you should go and spend your money at. Let's be honest here, if you want those same generic recommendations, any other video will give you that. Instead, here are some local recommendations. Instead of going to all those places, you should go to Casa Loma, which is a historic building with Gothic architecture, and it is beautiful. Toronto is famous for diversity, and that is why I highly recommend visiting different neighbourhoods like Little Tibet, Little Italy, Greektown, Little India, Kensington Market, Chinatown, Little Portugal, and explore the food scene. If there's one thing I highly recommend doing in Toronto is eat. Food is what Toronto does the best, and you will love sampling different foods from all around the world in this city. But apart from that, if you want to check out some natural escapes, I would suggest spending an evening at Hyde Park or take a walk around Evergreen Brickworks. You could also book a food tour or a local guided tour of the city where you could understand about the history of Toronto. There's one thing I really want to do in this city, but I haven't gotten to it yet, is going on a ghost tour. It's not that expensive, and I think it is a great way to understand the history of Distillery District while being spooked out. And if you want to book those tours, I have put down the links in description box below, so you could check out that as well. And now let's get off the mainland Toronto and go to Toronto Island. This is a beautiful day tour from Toronto. You can take a ferry from Jack Layton Ferry Terminal, which costs $8 return, go to Toronto Island and explore all 3 islands in one day. There is a bicycle rental place in Toronto Island which you can take and bike your way around the island, which is a super good way to spend a day. And you get one of the best Toronto skyline view from this ferry. Lastly, I would recommend doing a day trip to Niagara Falls and getting on the boat tour because it is so worth the money. There are GO trains that take you from Union Station to Niagara Falls, and the GO bus and Vigo bus passes cost about $18, where you can use the GO train round trip and the Vigo buses in Niagara Falls to get around, which is a great way to see the area without spending a lot of money. Now let's get down to details of what you should pack. Well, it totally depends on which season you are traveling in. However, in all seasons, you cannot forget essentials like sunscreen and bug spray. Don't forget these 2 things because you'll thank yourself for this. And more importantly, always carry a jacket, even in summers, because the weather changes dramatically from morning to evening. If you're coming in any other season other than summer, bring layers, lots of layers, because the wind gets very chilly. Good walking shoes are a must, and you'll find yourself walking long distances a lot, so make sure you have good shoes. And always check the weather and double check what it feels like with the wind chill, because you can see the temperatures being 11 degrees and it feels like 5 degrees. Because winters are no joke here, so if you're even close to winter, pack that heavy down jacket, you'll not regret it. And another important thing to have on your trip is a travel insurance. I always use Safety Wing. I put down the link in description box so you can have a look at Safety Wing's travel insurance. I swear by it, I have used it personally, and it's much cheaper than any other travel insurance I have come across. And on a final note, Toronto is a nice city, but not something you haven't seen anywhere else. It is just like any other city. When I first experienced Toronto, it felt like New York, so I would only recommend spending a few days here and then head somewhere else. It's super expensive to travel in Toronto, with an average daily budget being anywhere around $100 to $150 for a super strict budget trip. So I personally don't find it a worthwhile city. Canada is huge and Toronto is a tiny chunk. So if you are just visiting Toronto in Canada, I would say you wasted your trip. Because there's so much more to see in this country that you will fall short of time. Of course, it's my personal opinion and you'll have your own because it depends on experiences, but I still think spending 3 days in Toronto is just enough to explore everything and then head somewhere else, see Montreal, see Calgary, see Quebec City, which has a lot more charm than Toronto. Do tell me what are your thoughts about Toronto in the comment section, and if you think it's worth spending more than 3 days here. And finally, I hope you find this video helpful and give me a 7 like if you do. Follow me on Instagram and I'll see you next week with another video. Bye bye.